1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast, your go-to podcast for all things entrepreneurship, accounting, and lifestyle. Today, I have with me Liz Scott, a somebody of somebodies in the accounting world. Liz Scott Training and Consulting LLC helps design app training for the accounting community. And she takes the complex and breaks it into bite-sized pieces and makes it easy to understand and absorb via on-demand accounting certifications and partner programs. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we're filming live from Scaling New Heights Accounting Conference.
Oh my gosh, I love a good conference.
Yeah, same. It's like a reunion, like a high school reunion, but better. Because they're people you want to see.
People that you have been looking forward to seeing. You've been following them on social. You've been hearing about everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
So to hug them in real life is something that I genuinely enjoy.
Yeah, especially like when it's an industry conference. So they're like people that understand the way your brain works. I think that's the best thing about like accounting conferences. Everyone's like, oh, I couldn't do accounting. And then you go to accounting conference and everyone is like you.
Everybody is like you. Yeah, well, you know, that everybody's like you.
But not.
But they have different areas of specialty. And I think that that's one of my favorite things is sitting down at lunch and, you know, at breakfast, the times whenever you're actually able to absorb what are other people doing?
Yeah.
And then figuring out how are they doing it. That part to me is fascinating.
Yeah. How long have you been going to these conferences?
So I think that San Antonio Scaling New Heights was my first Scaling New Heights. And then prior to that, there was a Sleater Con, which was super fun.
I don't even know what Sleater is.
So Doug Sleater, he is like legendary in our industry.
Oh,
and
gosh, I should know this.
So Joe Woodard and Doug Sleater were really good friends. And so Joe actually was one of the ProAdvisor trainers for Doug Sleater. And so Doug started the whole conferencing thing, and then Joe like also grew with it. Yeah, and so both of them had conferences slightly different, but stellar.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. So fun. And you're transitioning. Why don't you like tell them a little bit about like who you are and where? Because I'm like, let's go right in. They don't know who you are.
Let's dig in.
They're not in the accounting world where everyone knows who Liz Scott is.
Well, so
make sure you're projecting into the mic.
Okay, so what I do with the day of my life is going through and looking at what's available for accountants. What is it that we're trying to absorb? And how can I take these different types of areas of interest and then share it with our community? So that's one of my favorite things to do is to take something that is inside here and share it out. So I really like the technical. Mm-hmm. So if you're following some of my training, it usually gets deep. Yeah. So go deep fast. I'm good with it. Let's go. Yeah. That's where we want to go anyway. We want to know how. We want to know what.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I feel like there's this strong need for all of the technology that's constantly changing.
Yeah.
How do we digest it? So I've been working with several different apps for many years, but now I'm just taking it to that next level of creating the training that accountants are really looking for.
Yeah.
It's our tone.
Yeah.
And then making it available for accountants to just go and digest anytime.
You're like a translator. Like you take the language of the tech world, because as accountants, we need all these apps. We need the tech. We need it to do our jobs, efficiently. But it's like we're not tech people necessarily, right?
Oh, I know. You give me goosebumps.
We're Excel people. We're spreadsheet people. But like you're able to translate that tech world into a language that we can understand. And so like you're such an asset, I think, to our industry.
Well, thank you. I enjoy my industry a lot. I really love my community. And I've had a unique opportunity for years to travel around with Intuit.
Yeah.
And there was a really strong group of us. There still are, but we just don't get to travel around on behalf of Intuit right now.
Yeah.
And what I was able to be is in the room with hundreds of accountants who were telling me their problems. Mm-hmm. And what I kept hearing over and over is just, tell me how.
Yeah.
Tell me how to use these apps. Tell me which ones to use. And
like
I wanted,
overload. There's so many.
Yeah, and I think that many of the people in our community are very empathetic and want to give, and coming from that mindset, I want to share anything that I'm learning.
Yeah,
because I can grow from other people, and if I have something of value to offer, you bet you I want to give it to you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that. So, but did you start like as just like regular accounting? doing the books yourself? Did you start in corporate accounting, or did you always kind of start on like the techie side? Like, how did you get to being this tech educator in the accounting space?
I think genetics. So my grandpa, he was one of the developers of the flight simulator programming for the FAA.
Wow.
And growing up, I had these programmers that were around me all of the time. Mm-hmm. And that was part of where I grew. And then we had a lot of family businesses. And so the other side of it was I really like organization. And so being able to break it down and help with the finances of the business, that's where it kind of all just kind of came together.
Mm. And now that you're doing more education, you still have your accounting firm, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're doing more, like you hosted Appy Camp, which was so fun.
2024 is coming back.
Yeah, let's go. Appy Camp is like an accounting influencer and educator retreat for people in our industry who really want to like make a difference and make an impact. And do you want to talk about like what was the brainchild behind that? And like to these people who, the people on my podcast probably are not accountants and bookkeepers, but like how could you do that in another industry, or like how did you get there?
So here's what I think is fascinating about the accounting industry. And again, I get goosebumps just thinking about accountants are so underutilized. The thing that we're really good at is we're great at collecting all of the data.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs need that data, whether it's you're doing some marketing and I can see that you have some spikes in the activity and wow, your revenue is actually increasing during the same times that you're doing these marketings. There's some trends happening. Mm-hmm. That is valuable information.
Yeah.
And that's really that piece of any industry is going to benefit from having that story and that seeking out and giving to entrepreneurs. Where Appy Camp came into play is that we wanted to take all of these educators. So the goal was to not only just have ProAdvisors, accountants, CPAs, thought leader, industry leaders that were there, but to also have the people who were sharing that message on, creating content and training and coming to conferences and sharing that message. We wanted to pull those people that are sharing the message. How do we help entrepreneurs? Mm-hmm. What is it that they are seeking? And with all of the changes in technology, we need to be able to incorporate the technology into the education and the stories about what it is that our entrepreneurs are looking for. Mm-hmm. So Appy Camp was really an opportunity to pull all these like-minded people together who's generously giving to our communities, whatever those communities are, and being able to coordinate and to say, so Katey, what is it that you're interested in? And Sam, what is it that you're interested in? So all of these different people who are phenomenal, binding us together, and then uniting us in a way to be able to share every single time that we're going to a conference. We're giving into hundreds of people. And then those people are speaking to all of their clients because we're talking to accountants and they're pouring it into their clients and they're pouring it into their team members. And so you have to get full in order to give.
Yeah. Fill your cup so you can pour out.
Fill your cup. And fill your cup with people who love you, who want to see you succeed. But I mean, I really and truly, it's difficult to give yourself. It's uncomfortable even talking about like videos like this, you're putting yourself out there. Yeah. And so there is a part of you that feels very vulnerable, and to have those around you who 100%, I got your back.
Yeah.
I am going to lift you up and I'm going to sing your praises and, support you in your dreams. You need that. Yeah. To make a difference.
Right. So because Appy Camp was free to us, like the people who were invited, it was completely paid for. If let's say I'm an entrepreneur and I'm like, I don't really have that community, that very much community of like collaboration. Let's work together. Let's build each other up. Let's make each other better because we're in the same industry, but we're different niches. So we're not in competition. We are in collaboration. Mm-hmm. Like if they're like, I don't have that, but I want to build it. Mm-hmm. Do you have tips for like, what would be the first step, or like, how do you start, or how do you even
like-minded people?
Find the people first.
Find the people that you are drawn to. whether it's their energy, it's their messaging, what is it that's attracting you to that person, and try to unite. Seek them out. I'm going to tell you, I wine texted Ron Baker one night.
Ron.
He still knows who Liz Scott is. So every single time I see him in the hallway at the conference, I'm like, oh God, hi.
Wine texted.
It was the thing. Anyway, but I was gushing because I was just so in awe of what he had done for me as a person, and then knowing other people who share that same feeling. It's like I wanted to offer my whatever it was that I could give. I wanted to be able to offer my resources to be able to help him, and now I get to sit at the front row of his classes.
Yeah.
But it's the connections.
Yeah.
So even if there's somebody who's really high up, you've got really big aspirations, I say still go for it, because you need to then network, to then build onto it, to grow some more community, grow some more people. And then you can start saying, what do we want to do with this momentum? Because you're going to inevitably have family life that's going to bring you down. You're going to get busy, health, whatever it might be, a season in your profession. You need other people to pass the torch to.
Yeah.
And that way, everybody is carrying the torch for a season, and you're not feeling overwhelmed, and you can give more collaboratively.
And you can be a content creator without being a content creator. And I think it can be hard to run a business and to create content that's inspiring and educating, like a podcast, right? It's not, nobody pays you to have a podcast, right? It's like, it's a passion project. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a pouring out.
Yeah, it's a pouring out. And, somebody asked, did you start that to grow your business? I'm like, honestly, I barely talk about my business. Like, this is a passion project to help entrepreneurs. It's not to be like, come buy my services. That's not why I created this, Yeah. And like, but also pouring out and creating content is exhausting. And it's another level of just things to do on top of I'm already trying to run a business and scale a company.
Right.
So having those people to be like, let's have a content day together. And it just it makes it so much more fun. And like you said, you can kind of pass the torch and play off of each other's stuff, and in a way that's collaborative. And then in terms of throwing an event like that, it was 4 or 5 days. You got sponsors? How do you pay for something like that? What's logistically, who determines I know you and Heather, that was your brainchild. Did other people help you, or you're me and my girlfriend, we're just going to plan this event?
So part of having that supportive community is also having some people in your network that say, even the craziest ideas, why not? And so that's where Appy Camp came from, is that we love coming to conferences. We weren't able to because we were all shut down in a pandemic. And we were thinking about what is it that we were doing for just sanity, and I love camping.
Yeah.
And so we thought, okay, camping is outside. People can have their space. They've, got room to grow. And I thought about, what do I do whenever I go to camp, when I go to the lake? And I watch the water. I let my soul renew.
Yeah.
I drink my coffee as slowly as I can. I watch the steam come off of it. I don't have time to do that in my normal world.
Yeah. So
it was that sense of, let's pull it together with all of us. And, Heather and I just kept on coming up with ideas. And the place that you were talking about, why was it free to attendees? What we wanted to do was we wanted to say, these people have been gifting to us for so many years. We wanted to gift to them. And there was a mix there of what I would call well-established educators who have been there for many years, writing books and sharing their knowledge. And then there was a whole other group of people there that were up-and-comers.
Next gen.
Yeah, and it's
Hi.
Score. I mean, what a find. And so I really feel like, in order for the momentum to stay fresh, in order for there to be continued new perspectives, you have to bring in different people. You have to have multiple different generations there. You have to have different backgrounds. You have to have all the people in order to be able to make something better for everyone. Mm-hmm. So it was important to have those key people there.
I think it's so interesting. People don't ever really if they're not in the accounting world, they don't analyze the accounting industry. But we're a very rare industry, having
Extraordinary.
You know, like I was in teaching before this, and before that I was in fashion. And so I kind of grew up in the fashion industry. Very cutthroat, very competitive, collaboration, not really a thing unless you're both trying to grow a following. Like it was like collaboration with the
Intent.
yeah, with, you know, ulterior motives behind it. But it was like, we both have the same ulterior motive. So it's like, we kind of get it. But it wasn't like, let's be best friends, you know? Whereas it's so different in the accounting industry. It's like people honestly just want to help you. People honestly just want to see you succeed. I don't know if it's because there's so many, you know, I come from Miami where it's just like everybody's trying to be somebody.
Right.
And so when they're offering to help you, a lot of times there is some ulterior motive. Not that it's malicious intent, but it's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Whereas in accounting, it's like, you don't need to scratch mine. I'll still scratch yours. Like, I'll still show up for you. At some point, I'm sure you'll show up for me too, but it's not this need of like immediate return on investment.
Exactly. Yep.
And so I think like other people get to cultivate that in whatever industry they're in. Like you get to be the incubator. You get to be the cultivator of whatever culture you're trying to create in an industry. And just because your industry doesn't have that doesn't mean it can't have that. It means it doesn't have it yet. Like you get to be the one to create it.
Well, who would have thought that accountants were so much damn fun?
We are fun.
We are stupid fun. Like, oh my gosh, a prom. We're having a prom here at the conference.
Yeah,
and
prom night.
There is all kinds of giddy up that's going to be happening. I can't wait to see it. But you know, it is that sense of community and outreach. And you're right, not all industries have that. Most industries don't have that. You know, whenever I'm talking to my clients and I'm saying, go to your industry conferences. And so I've gone to those. There is because they're like, come with me. It's not that fun.
Yeah.
We're not doing whatever you're doing because it's not right. But, you know, I've immersed myself in e-commerce conferences. I've immersed myself in wherever my clients are. That's where I want to go. I want to be able to understand them and hear them. But it is a different feeling whenever you're talking about accountants are caring for so many people. They're very much background people, and they don't have to have all of the attention. But yet at the same time, we are supporting an entire community of our clients, you know, whatever that clientele is. And that support is necessary for each other in order to maintain it. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, we were talking about giving and giving. Accountants give to the point that their health is in crisis. Their lives are in crisis. You know, the families are suffering. So I don't know that that's being talked about enough.
Yeah.
That accountants themselves as humans are suffering right now.
Be nice to your accountant. They're working their butt off.
They're killing themselves, and you have no idea how late they're staying up for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a hard reality, and I think that's another place that I feel very strongly led is to say it's not necessary to have a 5-day work week. It's okay if you have I'm 3-day work week now.
I love that for you. I'm getting there.
It's allowed me to say I get to do whatever it is that I want to do. The rest of it,
the lifestyle business.
Yeah.
We are pro lifestyle business in this place.
And it means if you don't have as much money, well, is that really that big of a deal?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to survive on a little less. Because if you're feeling more full inside, then I'm able to do actually better work, and my quality of work is going to go up because I'm not drained, and it's going to come back to me that my quality is going to be worth more, and so it's actually good for me to rest.
Mm-hmm. We were just talking about that on the podcast with Sam. Like, boundaries are so important as an entrepreneur. Like, it's hustle culture can be so toxic.
It is, and I would say that a lot of us that are entrepreneurs, accountants included, are very ADHD. There's a lot of ADD that happens in our area because we are entrepreneurs.
Wearing all the hats.
Wearing all the hats, and we love all the hats. We don't want to give up the hats,
yeah.
But you know, we do want to put them on the shelf so they can be stored for a while. You don't have to wear 17 at once. But I think that's, as an entrepreneur, an area where we all could do better. We could all learn something from having days that you call, you know, refresh days, rejuvenation. You put it on your calendar. I started with Fridays with mine, and then I moved over into, well, it would be nice to have Mondays too.
Mondays and Fridays.
Right? I mean, because I got this like whole thing worked out. It's like So Tuesday, Thursday, I'm kicking ass. Friday rolls around. I'm like, yes, I'm going to get to prep before the weekend.
No
I
Monday
get to,
scaries.
Yeah, and then I get to give all of
I love
myself
that.
to my family
Yeah.
because on the weekends, if I'm giving everything that I've gotten to my business Monday through Friday, I get to the weekend and I need to rest. Well, my
Right.
family is there.
Yeah.
I need to be with them.
Yeah.
And so I've said Fridays are going to be my days where I can rest.
Yeah.
I can go to the gym. I can do whatever. And then Saturdays I'm there. Sundays I'm there. And then on Mondays I'm recuperating. Because I know that on Tuesdays through Thursdays I'm going to kick ass again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prime time.
Yeah. I love it. So like,
Me too.
you have your podcast with Heather.
Yes, yes.
Tell them what your podcast
Okay,
is.
so because all of this technology is out there for entrepreneurs, we're looking for tech for all of those industries. We're looking for what is it that you need. Do you need, job service field management? Do you need to have, dispatching? Is it inventory? What is it that, all of our clients are looking for? And we're bringing all of that tech in and we're saying, here's how you learn that. And we're teaching it to the accountants. So that way the accountants can take it back to their clients.
Right.
As a resource to share with their clients. Maybe they don't know how to use it yet.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's more of that, hey, this is available to you.
Yeah.
And you heard it over on Appy Hour. They were talking about a cocktail and they were talking about some app that did this thing.
Margaritas and tech.
Right. And so they were drinking, they were having fun. It was laid back and they were talking about some techie geeky stuff that, clients need.
Yeah.
So it's fun. We have a good time there.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like, when did you make the shift of, okay, I'm going to run my business to actually I want to be an educator and an influencer in my industry? And what did that shift look like logistically or like actually?
I think that part of it comes from growing up and I would say that most entrepreneurs can relate to this, but it's still scary to say. In school, I didn't naturally excel because I was thinking my unusual thoughts. And I was spinning off on topics and the teacher would be talking about geographical locations and I'm like, what?
Unicorns.
How can I ride one? Where can you buy one?
So if I get the unicorn at this price, I'll be profitable at this price. So then I could buy another one. Then I could start my unicorn farm.
Right? I mean, like
Entrepreneurship.
Would we do rides on carousels? I mean, I don't know.
We'll have a merch store.
This is so fun. But I feel like, the journey of coming from wherever it is that you are now into the future is a fun place to always be open to.
Yeah.
And whenever I was, a young student, I didn't do well with traditional education. And that's where it came into play. Whenever I saw accounting, it made sense to me. Because I do like to organize, because I do like to sort, because I do think that things belong in their categories.
Like
yeah. Well, I mean, a little chaos. I'm actually more chaos than I am order, but because I'm so chaos, I do need order.
Yeah.
So I operate from that.
Yeah.
Please help me. I'm all over the place. How can I break this down?
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like the education comes into play, because now if I break it down on a level that no matter where you're at, you can understand it and you can then start to make it yours.
Yeah.
All you have to do is have that first little bite-sized piece that you digest and you go, oh, I'm not a freaking idiot. Mm-hmm. Then you're ready for the next piece. But if you lose people because you're just starting off so technical that they can't even understand the words that you're saying, you've lost them.
Yeah.
They're never going to get there, and I want to grow people.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, so it came from a place of struggling myself in school.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs, like the businesses come out of, is like, I had this struggle. I want to help other people not have this struggle.
Yeah.
What would be some like tips or tricks just on like entrepreneurship or building business as a whole that maybe you learned later and you're like, if I had known this sooner, or just things that really move the needle in your business?
I feel like, gosh, that's so difficult, because I heard Sam say business strategy, and I want to like tag on to that and say, absolutely, if you don't know where you want to financially be personally, well then how can you create a business strategy that tells you how much you need to bring in order to support your family. So first start, what do you need to support your family with? And then start to figure out how are you going to get there? And when you're really tuned into what it is that's your focus, and then you start to like dial it into where are you actually profitable and where can you amplify that, cut back on some of the extra crap that you're doing, take Monday off.
Yeah.
It's just busy anyway.
Yeah.
And you really start to fine tune where you're going. That's where you find success.
I love that. Kind of like start with the end in mind and back into what needs to be my gross profit, therefore what needs to be my sales, because I know what my net profit needs to be.
And if you don't need Fridays, cut those off too.
Yeah, if you don't need Fridays, cut them out.
That's right. And really and truly, I have to say, I'm not financially worse off.
Yeah.
I'm actually better because of the fact that I'm refreshing myself.
Right. There's no burnout there.
There's no burnout.
So good.
And my family, I get to keep them because I'm there for them. And I think that so often families suffer because of, call it an entrepreneurial sickness. There is definitely something different with the entrepreneurial brain, and it requires us to be aware that our spouses, our children are not always that.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we're leaving a part of that outside of the relationship because they need us to be dedicated to them.
That is so good. Because like a lot of people in my circle are like, we're not married yet. We don't have kids yet. So it's just like, it's all me all the time. Me and my business, me and my business baby.
Right.
My
business baby.
It is a baby. It is a baby.
Right.
You got to like nurture it and feed it. My gosh, it's up in the middle of the night all the time. You know what I mean? Like it's a business baby, but
Changes
then
diapers.
When you're pivoting into having a family, okay, the business baby's not the only child anymore. And they're not even maybe the first child now. Now the actual children are the real child.
True. And the job is there to support the family. I mean, that's what you have to keep in balance. I think that many entrepreneurs are lucky that we get to love our job, that we get to grow and create whatever it is that we want to do. I mean, that's so unusual.
Yeah.
But to be successful, you need support. And, I was talking about community, but that also means those people that are in those four walls with you, you need their support. And if they hate what you do, you're going to have a barrier in between you and your family.
Wow.
So I don't think that it's an easy thing to take us out of, because if you ask me what my hobby is, it's going to be work.
Business, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, like so many of your entrepreneurs that are on here right now, what do you do on the weekends? You're thinking about work. So, allowing that time to have that, but know that weekends are family.
I love that. Is there like crossover between like your family and your business? Like, do you kind of invite them into that space, or
yes.
they're like,
no,
keep it over there?
I want them in. So my daughter is freaking kick ass. So I won't tell you what she does. I'll tell you first. So what I brought her into the firm to do was, hey, let's try some bookkeeping. She sucked at it. I mean, she hated it, and she wasn't any good. So we said, okay, well, what about writing? And she's a phenomenal writer. Well, I do a lot of writing. So pulling her in and having her do some writing right off the bat at 14 years old, her writing was excelling some of mine.
Wow.
She has such a warm, colorful way of wording that it's beautiful. And so now she's taken that, and she is actually going into journalism, and she's phenomenal at it. She is an incredible interviewer. She's very disarming. She's kick-ass. So I want my kids to be in. And my son's the same thing. They have different skill sets. So I'm pulling them in. And, some of the technical writing that I'm doing right now, I'm actually having one of my boys research and the other one write it. So I'm like, I want to pull them in. What is it that is their super skill? I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But there's a playground here, and because it's our playground, if we need to turn it a little bit to our clients, so freaking what? Let's just do it. Let's go for it.
I love that. Allowing your business to be the playground for your children to understand their gifts, skill sets, and passions.
Who knows where they'll go with it? But I mean, we have such unique opportunities here.
Wow.
It's fun.
That is incredible. See, I don't have kids, so I don't think about this stuff, right?
Well, I don't know that some of it is written down anywhere. So
Yeah.
it's not knowledge that we're sharing with each other much either.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely see that, children who come into a business and they understand, these are work hours and these are, mom's clients. And so would you like some water? Those kinds of things. That's how you're going to have, groceries later. Say hi to them.
Yeah.
So, making sure that they're in on what it is that we're doing is important. And I would say one of the things that's really difficult about the virtual world is that it's imaginary. So my kids don't actually get to see any of this in person. It's all in the bubble. So I feel like in those scenarios, it's even more important to bring in your family because they need to see what is this bubble that you're talking about that you are very much immersed in, but we don't get to participate in.
Yeah. Wow. You're reminding me of my childhood because the reason that I do accounting is because I was doing bookkeeping for my mom when I was a teenager. And my first job was for our family CPA. And then I went to fashion school. So it's like, I was always like, I used to tell whoever asked me, I'm not being an entrepreneur. My mom used to work crazy hours and I don't want that life, right? She'd be in her office till 11 o'clock at night.
Yep.
I know now she did that out of choice because she found value in her work and she loved what she did. But as a kid, that's not how I saw it, right? Why do you work so much? Secondly, I was always like, I'm not going to be an accountant. That's so boring. But then when I realized that I could do accounting because it comes so naturally to me, both my parents studied accounting. They met in the accounting department at General Motors in the 80s. It comes so naturally to me, like both genetically and the way that I grew up. I had to reconcile my checkbook as a teenager. My parents wouldn't let me have a bank account. And so like, the things that you think like, oh, I grew up in this, so I'm never going to do that, actually might be what brings them back around when they are like, oh, well, I had this other passion project. It didn't work out, but I can fall back on this thing because my mom taught me when I was 14, or I did this work with my family business that like, it's almost like a fallback plan. Like it's a built-in safety net for them. They have a skill set they can go back to if whatever they want to do doesn't pan out.
Well, it makes me think of core memories, like, some of those core childhood memories, but that's also like core family foundation that you're describing right now is what they were laying out for you that you ended up picking up different pieces of that and taking on.
It's so funny the things that like you don't think of when you're in it. And then you reflect on it like 10, 20 years later and you're like,
that impacted me.
Wow, yeah, that made so much difference. And people are like, you don't look like an accountant. I'm like, yeah,
thanks.
I know. That's a compliment. I'll take it.
That's
I'm
right.
sure you get it too.
Very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thanks for noticing.
I didn't bring any pocket protectors this week, so I get why you're saying that. But even my grandfather, I remember, like always wore like a button up and dress pants and a pocket protector, and I think a tie. Like every time I ever saw him, I never once saw him in casual clothing ever in my life.
Wow.
And he was so good at math. He was so brilliant. He was a teacher and a professor. But just even like the things that you grew up seeing, everybody in my family is successful in their careers. That was just like part of it, like we have a spirit of excellence. We work hard, we study, we get educated, and we are lifelong learners, And growing up in that environment, it was like failure isn't an option, but not in a bad way.
Right.
And like you can always just pivot and keep learning and you'll be successful.
Well, it sounds like you have a really strong family network too. And I think that's really important. One of the things that I try to do for my kids is make sure that they know that we have got them. So their job is to go off do. Our job is to make sure that they've got a safe place to land. But the walls of our house are always to protect each other, to support each other. It's not I come home and I give my worst to my family because I gave my best to everybody else that I might not even know.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite. I'm giving what I can to the people that I'm growing. I made the choice to have them.
Yeah.
So I need to like be responsible there and actually see it through.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm giving to them first, and I want to make sure that they're giving to each other because, at some point your parents are gone.
Yeah.
And you need to have each other.
Yeah.
And it's great that you had some strong family to pull from.
When I've talked to other friends who maybe their parents didn't create that baseline for them, it is kind of being set up for success before you even start.
Yep.
Because there was always kind of that safety net of, oh, if I fail, I can just go home.
Right. I have somebody who's going to hear me on a bad day. Yep. And is going to support me.
Love me anyway.
Love me anyway. Even if you do really stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Really stupid stuff.
My parents are like, we sent you to a really good private school and you're quitting your corporate job to go move to South Korea. And I was like, And they were like, no, you're not. I said, actually, yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. And I did. And they were not for it. They were like, we did everything right to get you where you needed to go. And you're just leaving it all. And I was like, yes, I am.
But you know what I think about? Go ahead.
That was before my accounting company even started.
Well, you know what made me think of is listening to. So I think of another area that you didn't even mention. You're a great marketer too. So marketing, fashion, accounting, and what was the other one?
I don't know.
You just had a fourth one. You had three. Anyway. But all of those different areas, it's like you have multiple different selves. And sometimes you need to live some of those different selves in order to figure out which one do I actually like the skin best.
Yeah,
so you have to
true.
try it.
And my mom was always, I talk about my mom a lot on this podcast because she just had she was such an intentional parent that I think a lot of the way that I am was because of the way that, she was so intentional. And she would say, I'll invest in whatever hobby you want to try because I think it's important that you try different hobbies so that you know what you like.
Yep.
And then I have friends who in their 20s, they were like, I don't have any hobbies. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have any hobbies? They're like, I just don't have any hobbies. I'm like, I'm sure you do have hobbies. You don't know what they are because no one ever, you just haven't tried things, But I'm like, I know I like this. I know I like this. I know I didn't like that and I didn't like that, but I did like this. I like this aspect of this because I got to try a lot of things. My mother exposed me to a lot of hobbies.
Yep.
And it's like knowing I love being on camera. I love being on stage. I've been a dancer my whole life.
I'm fantastic at it.
Thank you. But I know I like being on stage because I grew up dancing. So when it was like pivoting to being on stage for work, that was already a place that was comfortable for me because I grew up on a stage dancing.
Yep.
And so it's interesting how even like the things that you try when you're young can set you up for success even in a completely different environment. Like some people are like, oh, I'm not used to being on stage. Been on stage since I was 3.
But there's always classes, there's always people, there's always coaching in order to get better in areas that you're not naturally
absolutely
excelling at.
Yeah.
But that's something that we were talking about this earlier, speaking classes and courses and going to coaching and having help in those areas. That's not something that most accountants went into go do. But yet at the same time we have a very important message and we need to get it out there, and the more that we can hone in on how should we deliver that message, the more that it's going to resonate with people. We can reach people better, and we're actually doing a better job if we are letting ourselves also soak up education continually in areas that we're not great at.
Did you do any sort of like speaking training program, like to kind of because you're on a lot of stages, were you naturally that way, or did you have to do a lot of work, put in the work?
I have never taken any classes except for just one, our dear friend Misty.
Mejia. I knew it was going to be Misty.
Yeah.
Shout out to Misty Mejia if you need stage presence classes.
She's phenomenal.
I'm going to put her in the description because,
So Misty, she's another person who pours into others. And she comes from a theater background.
Yeah.
So she's not in accounting, but she is, for those of you who don't know, she is in the accounting space, and she's helping accountants with their messaging and helping with the delivery. And, hand gestures. She'd say, Liz, put your hands down.
Good luck with that.
Right? I don't know what to do with them. But she's somebody who is paying attention to those details.
Yeah.
So that way you can reach the various different people that you want to connect with. But other than that, no, just winging this.
Winging it.
Just winging this thing.
Where did you first meet your friends who are kind of like your co-collaborators in this space, like Heather and stuff? Did you meet them at conferences or did you meet them?
So I have my core people that I really try to be with most of the time. And during my growth, I was seeking them out. So one of the people that has poured into me and brought me to conferences is Liz. So she's a CPA friend that I had asked her at the time, do you need any help? And so I went to work with her for a while. And then together we started going to conferences. And on the plane, I met, I'm going to call him the godfather of accounting in our industry as far as education, Murph. And
I remember my mom talking about Murph from the time I was like, she's like, if you have a question, Katey, we call Murph. And I was like, who's this Murph guy?
I hit the microphone, but I couldn't help it. It's like I have big hearts. So I was on a plane and I was sitting next to this gentleman and I was just telling him how just geeked out excited I was for QuickBooks Online. And he listened to me and he was kind to me. And then I later on found out that he was a rock star.
Yeah.
All right.
The rock star in the accounting world.
And so he's continued to be somebody that I've looked up to. He's given me a ton of feedback. He's provided a lot of opportunities, and I feel extraordinarily lucky to have somebody in my life like that who mentored me a lot and continues to.
Yeah, mentors are everything. Having that person like in your corner. Mm-hmm. Have you seeked out other mentors? Like, did you find them? This might have been pre-social media, but like, did you know that you needed a mentor and you were like, okay, I'm going to go find one? Yeah. Or was it like, hopefully they fall out of the sky and find me?
I think it goes back to who is speaking a message that resonates with you. And then whether it's wine texting or whatever, go seek them out, go find out what they're doing. But there was several people that were presenting on QuickBooks, and it was something that was attractive to me. But what really drew me in was I was at one of the conferences and I was talking to some of the app vendors and I went, wait, you're two great apps. Why don't you talk to each other? Why don't you connect? Because I need you both in my work cycle.
Yeah.
And it was there that it was like, okay, this connection is actually needed. They're not going to do it on their own, but I can actually start doing webinars. And that was one of the first things I started doing was like, two great apps, so let's use them together. And that was such a hit.
Wow.
That's where I just continued to share and to give, step-by-step tutorials.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of like, when you work with these apps, at the beginning you probably had to be like, oh, come join me. And now apps are like begging you, hey, will you work with us, It's
fun because I do get to be choosy about who I want to work with. Ethics matter to me. I want to have somebody who's got very similar values. And there's many of times that I've said no to different apps because what I want to do is I want to genuinely share information with people who need it and are going to receive it. Mm-hmm. And if it's just a sales pitch that you're needing, that's not the direction that we're going to align. Mm-hmm. So that's where I find it's really important to know what it is that you're wanting to do, your true north. Mm-hmm. Where are you trying to go to?
Yeah, I love that. I think we talk a lot on this podcast about like core values, ethics, being aligned with not just clients, but even like people that you want to partner with or even that you want in your friend circle, really. Because they're either going to steer you in the right direction or they're going to steer you in the wrong direction just based on the advice that they're giving. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, do they share your same core values?
The answer is I'm working very closely with these apps in order to create training. Because it is very heavy in process-driven activity, I need to know all of the details, which means I need more than just an hour's worth of your time. I need you to spend days with me. I need to understand what it is that we're trying to share. And then based off of what the capabilities are, what is it that we want to share? What is it that's actually going to be needed by the accounting community? And that's where, I take that information and I turn it into education and training and accountant partner programs, certifications. All of that requires training and exams and, of course, badges and buttons.
Yeah.
That's really fun. It's my favorite. But I absolutely, in order to spend that much time with somebody, I need to like them.
Yeah.
I need to believe in them.
Yeah.
I need to know that they've got, a vision. And typically I'm working with apps that have been established for quite a while, and maybe they're coming out with new product lines, or maybe they've been in the space for a while, but now they're actually wanting to create some on-demand training, because a lot of people are digesting in their own time.
Yeah. Especially with like the class I'm teaching at this conference is winning and keeping next gen clients in your firm, right? Like the way that Gen Z digests information is different from the way millennials digest information, which is different from how Gen Xers digest information, right?
Yep.
And so if your company is not changing with the times, you will phase out, right? So how can you get on their level and understand them so that you can create for them?
Absolutely. I think that it's generational differences. I think they need to be acknowledged. I think that they need to be appreciated. There's something very cool about understanding how other people think.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really easy as somebody, if you were talking about phase out, I think it's really interesting that the reason that they're phasing out is because they're not connected anymore. They're no longer in touch.
Yes.
And so it does take some vulnerability of you opening up in order to allow for new to be absorbed. So you have to maybe get away from I know it all.
Yeah. Yeah. In the class, we're talking about like, it's a cultural gap, right? And anytime that you're meeting people from a different country, you're talking about what is their culture like? How do they think? How do they operate? Generational gaps are the same thing. Yep. How do they think? How do they operate? And then be willing to reverse mentor, right? Yep. Like be willing to learn from that, not just like I'm older, I know everything, but a lot of companies that have seen success in generational boundaries kind of breaking down in a good way, right? Having that wall come down is doing reverse mentoring. Having the Gen Z share what's on their heart. What are they doing? What are they learning? And how can we like all get excited about it together? That's what's working.
It's that nobody knows how to treat you if you don't tell them how.
Yeah.
And if you're from different generations or cultures, it doesn't really matter what the difference is. If you share with somebody what it is that you need, and they're wanting to connect with you, they're going to do that. Right. I mean, they want to. So if you're not sharing what you need, you're actually cheating the relationship. You're not allowing for it to grow. And so, entrepreneurs needing accountants, what is it that you need?
Yeah.
That's the thing that we want to be able to provide. It's all about, you got to say it.
Yeah. Setting people up for a win. Like people want to help you. Set them up for a win by telling them how.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great. So just kind of to wrap up a little bit, we always end with like, what's one thing one thing that either you've learned or something that that if the entrepreneur is watching this or listening to this, I guess, implemented this, it could really move the needle in their business. Like what's something that they could like implement today or do today?
Okay.
That would help them.
I would say figure out your weaknesses. Because if you can identify what you're not strong at, and you can take away the emotional deficit that you sometimes feel, then you can actually find and attract people that will help you in those areas.
Wow.
So figure out what is it that you suck at.
Yeah.
And go find somebody who doesn't.
Yeah.
And then pull their education, pull their resources in and, network them, hire them, whatever it is that relationship needs to be.
That's
mentor.
Great. You don't have to wear all the hats.
No.
Wear the hats you're good at.
Yeah, and then that way
outsource the rest.
Yeah, thrive in the areas that you're succeeding.
So good. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So fun. I'm so glad. Do you want to tell people like where they could find you if they're like, oh my gosh, I really want to connect with her?
Sure.
Where are you at?
So Liz Scott QBO, kind of everywhere. So Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. But if you're really wanting to get more into education, I would say go check out Liz Scott Consulting, and you can find more information there.
Amazing. And we'll put your links in the description.
Okay.
It's been so fun. Thanks for having you. And thanks, guys, for tuning in to another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast. And remember, today's a great day to start a business. Bye.